Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Allie and I make true crime videos. And if you haven't noticed, I changed the name of my channel, which is really exciting. It's not Alexandria Robin anymore. It is True Crime from My Couch, and it's what I originally wanted to name my channel. And I talked myself out of it, and then I talked myself back into it. So I hope you like the change. I'm really excited about it. And let's jump into our brand new video that we have all been waiting a very long time for. Today we are going to be talking about the disappearance of Morgan Nick. And Morgan disappeared in June of 1995, and she has not been seen or heard from since. Morgan was born on September 12th, 1988, and she was the oldest of 3 children. She had a younger brother named Logan, who was 3, and a little sister named Taryn, who was 22 months old at the time of her disappearance. And when Morgan went missing, she was 6 years old. She was 4 feet tall and 55 pounds, and she had blue eyes and long blonde hair, and she also had a protruding vein on her lower left rib cage. She had 5 visible caps on her back molars that were supposed to be removed later on, and the day of her disappearance, or the night of her disappearance I should say, she was wearing a green Girl Scouts t-shirt, blue denim jeans, and a pair of white sneakers. So before we get into the case, let's talk a little bit about Morgan. She was the sweetest little girl. Her mom, Colleen, said that when she grew up, Morgan wanted to be a doctor and a circus performer. Morgan always said that she wanted to help people and she wanted to make them laugh at the same time. So she was very, very sweet. Colleen said that she was a bright, sunshiny little girl. She had adopted a kitten that she named Emily, and she slept with her every single night. She was a member of the Girl Scouts, and she absolutely hated running outside because she didn't like to sweat. She had a laugh that came all the way down from the bottom of her belly, and like I said, she loved cats, and she thought the bubblegum was a food group. So June 9th, 1995 was a day like any other. Colleen said that the kids played all day long together, and that evening she made everybody grilled cheeses for dinner. And that later that evening, she and Morgan had been invited to go to a Little League baseball game a couple towns over. And she said that because her husband John was working, the 2 little children had to go to their grandma's house. So Morgan was really excited because she knew that she was going to get to have a girls' night out with her mom, just her and Colleen. So after dropping Logan and Taryn off at grandma's, Colleen and Morgan made their way the 30 minutes from Ozark, Arkansas, all the way over to Alma, Arkansas, where the ball game was being held. Before we go any further, I want to tell you a little bit about Alma, Arkansas. In 1995, Alma was a very small, quaint little town, and it had a population of less than 4,000. So it was very tiny. Alma was once known as the spinach capital of the world. It was nestled in the Ozark Mountains, and it was a rural town, but it was located right next to a really busy highway, and that highway was Highway 80. Also, Alma was only 13 miles from the Oklahoma border, so that's going to come into play a little bit later when we're talking about who might have taken Morgan and how they got away with it. Alma had a low crime rate and had really great schools. It was a great school district, and so home buyers were flooding into Alma at the time, and it was a place where nobody expected evil to happen. So back to June 9th, 1995. Colleen and Morgan arrived and started watching the game with their friends and about 300 other spectators. And Colleen said that it was a teeny tiny little baseball field. It didn't have restrooms, it didn't have concessions, it was very, very small. And it was also 1 block away from the police department. Colleen said that you had to drive by the police department to enter or leave the field. And it also had a double fence around it. So I wouldn't say that it was secure necessarily because it was nighttime and it was outdoors, but it was about as safe a place as a parent could take their children. A block away from the police department. This was the 90s. Also, it had a double fence. So parents let their kids play at this baseball field. So Colleen and Morgan with their friends sat on the bleachers of the first baseline, and behind them was the parking lot, and the parking lot is where the kids played, so just remember that. So what I didn't mention about Morgan is that she was kind of shy, especially when meeting new people. I can relate with this a lot, and so during the game, Morgan tended to stay very close to Colleen. She stayed with her on the bleachers, and Colleen remembers that Morgan was actually playing pranks on her. She was really funny. And so she would get underneath the bleachers and tie Colleen's shoes together, and she thought that it was absolutely hilarious. So this baseball game was a late baseball game. It started at about 9 p.m. and at around 10:30 p.m. a couple kids came up to Morgan and asked her if she wanted to go play in the parking lot and catch fireflies. And like I said, the parking lot was right behind the bleachers that they were sitting on, and it was really common for the kids to go play at this parking lot. It was like the playground, basically. It's where the kids played during the games if they got bored. And Colleen said initially she said no. She didn't feel comfortable letting Morgan go play with kids that she didn't know. It was really dark, it was late, and Colleen's gut instinct told her to say no. However, the other parents, the other moms there told her, it's fine. The kids play there all the time. She's not that far away from you. It'll be fine. Let her go play. And so Colleen said yes. And so Morgan left with these two kids. Their names were Jessica and Ty. They left and went to the parking lot to catch fireflies and play for a little while. So Morgan's mom, Colleen, said that the parking lot was fairly well lit for it being such a small baseball field. And she said that she could see the kids playing and she wasn't very worried once she let her go. She wasn't that worried. She said that she periodically would turn around and check on Morgan and she could see her and she was having fun, so she let her stay. So while the kids were playing, they were about 75 yards away from Colleen and the rest of the adults that were watching the baseball game. And the game ended at 10:45. So about 15 minutes after Morgan went to play, the game ended. And Colleen said that for about 3 to 4 minutes after the game, she and the other adults were kind of standing around talking to the baseball players, talking to each other, and she said in that 3 to 4 minutes she did not look for Morgan. She thought that she was fine and she did not look around for Morgan. She was busy talking with the other adult. And Colleen said that when she turned back around, she did not see Morgan. She saw Jessica and Ty. They were running back to the bleachers and they sat down and they were trying to get sand out of their shoes. And she asked Jessica and Ty where Morgan was. And they said, oh, she's back at your car. She stopped because she had sand in her shoes and she didn't want to run with it in her shoes. And so she stopped and she was shaking her shoes out. So at this point, Colleen wasn't super worried. She thought that Morgan just stayed at the car. She knew that the game was over and she would just meet her at the car. So she grabbed her stuff and headed over to the car. This is when she started to get worried because Morgan was not at the car. Colleen said that she looked all around. She looked under the car, in the car, at the other cars. She was looking all over. She could not find Morgan. And she said at this point she was very worried. Her heart was pounding and she just couldn't find her. And she said it was clear that she wasn't there. And it seemed like she just simply vanished. She was nowhere to be seen. So like anybody, she starts looking around. She's asking other adults, you know, have you seen my little girl? Other adults are starting to ask. Everybody's looking for Morgan and nobody can find her anywhere. So because they were all so worried, somebody had a cell phone. And remember, this was back in '95, so not many people had cell phones at that time. So somebody had one and she offered it to Colleen, and so Colleen called the police department. And remember, it was only a block away, so it took them only 6 minutes to get to the baseball field. And Colleen said at this point she was still frantic, she was still terrified, but she thought everything is going to be okay. I called the police know what to do, everything is going to be fine, they will find her. And it just didn't happen. So when the police got there, they started to question everybody, and they specifically wanted to question Jessica and Ty because they were the last people to see Morgan. And so Ty and Jessica told authorities that they saw a creepy man and that this creepy man came up to them and was talking to them. They said that he had a short clipped beard and it was about a half an inch thick. He was about 23 to 38 years old. He was really tall. He was 6 feet tall and about 180 pounds, and that he had a medium to solid build. He also had slicked back dark hair. And the kids said that he was wearing denim cutoff shorts, no shoes, no shirt, and he had a hairy chest. So I can kind of understand why these kids called him a creepy man. They also said that he sounded like he had a hillbilly accent. So police were looking for this man, but by the time they got there, everybody was searching for Morgan. He was gone. It seems like he disappeared around the same time that Morgan did. So this creepy man is really the crux of this case at this point. And additionally, an adult woman had also reported seeing this man talking to the kids. So it wasn't just the kids saying that they saw this creepy man. It was also an adult saying that she saw him from far away. And she was giving the same description that the children were. So the police were really zeroing in on this creepy man. Witnesses were also able to give police a description of a truck that they saw at the ball game that disappeared around the same time Morgan did. And they said that it was connected to this creepy man. They said that it was a Ford truck, it was red, and it had a white camper on the back. And all of the witnesses said that this white camper seemed like it was too short for the truck that it was on. They were very specific, actually. They said it was about 5 inches too short for the bed of the truck. They also said that the camper windows were covered with curtains and that the truck had a dull paint job and that it seemed old. It seemed older. They said that it looked vintage and that it could be somewhere between 1968 and a 1974 wheelbase. So the people that saw this clearly had a very good idea of what trucks look like, but they were able to give a very, very solid description of this truck that they saw. They also said that the truck had Arkansas plates and that it was possibly damaged on its right rear end. So the police at this point have a description of a creepy man and also a description of a red truck that disappeared right around the time that Morgan disappeared. So for the next 4 days, Colleen stayed and was searching for Morgan. She was doing everything that she could to find her little girl. And she even said that she went 4 days without seeing Logan and Taryn. Because she was just so consumed with trying to find Morgan. And she said that when they finally did go see Logan and Taryn, they had to break the news that Morgan was gone. And Colleen said that she could not find the words. She just physically could not tell her children that their sister was missing. And so John, her husband, and their father, he told them, and he said, Morgan's lost. And Morgan's little brother, who was 3, almost 4 at the time, he burst into tears and he said, why did you lose my sister? Go find her. And Colleen said that that's something that just really stuck with her and broke her heart, obviously. But they had to tell their children that their sister was gone and they didn't know where she was. And how do you explain that to a 3 and 2-year-old? They don't understand that. He just wanted them to go pick her up. So that's heartbreaking. So for the next 6 weeks, there were 2 press conferences every single day. And Colleen and John vowed not to return home without her. They said, we will find her and we are not going home until we do. So there were intense searches around the clock, but leads went nowhere. They found nothing, absolutely nothing. Morgan vanished into thin air. And the days stretched into weeks, the weeks into months, and still there was just no sign of Morgan. And so for 6 weeks after Morgan disappeared, Colleen and John stayed in the Alma firehouse. That's where they set up their little house, home, and camp, and they stayed there working around the clock trying to find Morgan. And eventually, Colleen permanently moved to Alma so that she could continue the search for Morgan. On the day that Morgan went missing, there were other attempted abductions in the area. Earlier that same day, in a laundromat in Alma, a bearded man tried to pull a 9-year-old girl into the men's restroom. And someone intervened and he stopped. Now, I have seen some back and forth with this online, saying that it might have been some kind of like a domestic dispute, maybe a dad, I don't know. But it did happen. Also on the same day that Morgan disappeared, there was another attempted abduction. And this one involved a 4-year-old girl in Alma, and the abductor stopped when the little girl screamed, and the mother intervened. And when questioned, the mother gave a similar description to the description of the creepy man that was seen in the ball fields. The next day, on June 10th, another attempted abduction was reported, this time in Fort Smith, which is about 15 minutes away from Alma. And this one also had a similar description to the abductor in Morgan's case. So a few weeks later, a gardener named Albert Harvey claimed that he saw Morgan with a man. And he said that while he was clearing brush behind his employer's home, he saw a man trying to get into a truck with a blonde little girl. And he said that when the man noticed that Harvey was looking at him, he grabbed the little girl and ran into the brush and disappeared. He claimed that the man matched the description of the creepy man, and police zoomed in on this area. They automatically went there. There were searches. They combed the area on foot. They had horseback. There were four-wheelers. There were dogs. Everything. They had a helicopter. They descended on this location. And there were hundreds of leads and nothing concrete, but they were still looking. And eventually Albert Harvey took a polygraph and confessed that he made it all up. And police and Colleen were devastated. They thought that maybe they had found Morgan. He had made it all up. It wasn't true. So later on the 4th of July, America's Most Wanted ran Morgan's story, and lots of tips came in, but nothing solid. Nothing materialized. On July 7th, the Baxter Bulletin ran a story about more possible abduction attempts, and these attempts matched the description of the creepy man, and also had another man who was younger, possibly with blonde hair and a teenager. So the younger man was driving a two-tone brown car with Arkansas plates, and they actually did get a partial license plate number. They said that the last 3 digits were 711, and so this was looked into, but authorities have come out and said that they do not believe that it was related to Morgan's case. Later on in the year, there were 2 supposed sightings of Morgan in South Carolina in the company of a man. And so this resulted in a sketch being circulated along with a partial license plate, but nothing came of that either. On September 12th, 1995, which happened to be Morgan's birthday, 3 people in Arizona said that they had seen Morgan along with a man. And they said that it was a man that matched the description of the creepy man and the sketch, and he was driving a late model Ford pickup with Arkansas plates, and this was in Payson, Arizona. Police searched and searched and searched and found absolutely nothing. On the 1-year anniversary in June 1996, the family decided that they were going to do a little vigil, and they released pink balloons into the air. Pink was Morgan's favorite color, and they said that, you know, it was just a sign that they hadn't given up, that they would not quit fighting to find Morgan. In May 1997, in Spiro, Oklahoma, which is about 35 minutes southwest of Alma, police started collecting ballgame videos looking for clues in a girl's abduction. The girl was 4 years old, and her home was right across the street from the ballpark. And this little girl had been let go. She was found hours later on the side of the road, but police started wondering if maybe these two were connected. 2 little girls around the same age, both abducted from a ball field. So they were questioning this. They were looking into it and trying to get video footage to see if they could find a possible suspect. But as far as I know, nothing came of that. In October 1997, the Baxter Bulletin reported that police had confiscated some items during a September search. And according to the Crawford County affidavit, they searched an unnamed man's home and vehicle. Apparently, this man was turned in by a former friend who said that they had been friends for over 13 years. And he said that the suspect talked to this informant, his friend, about Morgan's abduction. After the informant talked to police, authorities decided that they were going to set up a surveillance operation. They thought that the information that this informant had was very important. And so the man made more statements about Morgan, but this time he was on videotape. And so police used this to obtain a search warrant. The vehicle listed in the affidavit said that it was listed as a dark blue 1988 Ford pickup, and investigators found a glove and a pad of paper inside, both with dark red stains in them, and investigators thought that it may be blood. Inside his home, they found a pink toothbrush, and they found a hairbrush with blonde hair fibers on it. And when they attempted to question this man, he would not answer any questions. He just gave them his lawyer's card. And so at that point, they couldn't question him anymore. So they took all of this evidence in, and it took about a year. But when the results came back, authorities were unable to link any of the items that they found to Morgan Nick. In 2001, Arkansas authorities released a brand new sketch. And this sketch was not the same man from the original sketch. It was a completely different man, and authorities have come out and said that it was based on actual witnesses from the ballpark. So people kind of question this. What do you mean actual witnesses from the ballpark? But in 2018, an investigative journalist looked into this, and they said that the description changed because the original sketch came from witnesses of the other attempted abductions at the time. So the people that were witness to the 4-year-old and the 9-year-old, that's where they got their descriptions from. So it may not have even been the same man that was at the ballpark that night. They said that that night they had a hard time confirming between the 3 witnesses, the woman and the 2 children, a really good description of the man, and so they just kind of went with this one. And so the man that they were searching for 6 years may not have even been involved in Morgan's disappearance. In 2010, investigators went back to Spiro, Oklahoma, and they searched a vacant trailer. And Spiro, Oklahoma is a town of about 2,100 people, and it's located in the southwest part of Fort Smith, and it's about 35 minutes away from Alma. So this is the second time that investigators have gone to this particular town. And they searched the same area again in 2017. So that's 3 different times that investigators went to Spiro, Oklahoma to search in relation to Morgan Nick. And additionally, they searched the same area in Spiro, Oklahoma 2 times. So LaFleur County Sheriff Robert Seal said that authorities began their search in 2017 based off of a tip. And he said that it wasn't a tip necessarily connected to Morgan's case, but he had enough of a feeling that he brought in Morgan's investigators just in case they found something. He said that authorities thought that they might have found an old well on the property, and so that's what they were digging up. And apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, I saw it online, that cadaver dogs hit it on this particular area, and so that's kind of what brought them in, but I don't know that for sure. So he said that they were able to dig approximately 2 feet before their search came to a halt. And they dug meticulously. They dug inch by inch, and every single particle that they came across, they allowed the Oklahoma Medical Examiner's Office to search all of it. They wanted to make sure that they were going through every single grain of dirt. And they hit some bedrock about 2 feet down, and that indicated that there was no well. So nothing was found. After this, they were feeling defeated, but they continued to search that area. They combed the area for days, but still found nothing. So the tip that came in was from a narcotics officer about a child molester. And this person was a previous person of interest in Morgan's case. So that's why the investigator thought that he would bring in Morgan's team. That person of interest is now in the Oklahoma penitentiary on child molestation and rape charges, and he's locked away. Sheriff Seal said, "We're satisfied that we haven't uncovered any evidence relating to any of the cases that we're interested in." And they said that FBI profilers that looked into the case concluded that the shirtless man that the kids and the woman named as a creepy man the night of Morgan's disappearance, the FBI said that he's probably not even related to this case. The FBI said that he was probably just somebody that lived across the street or lived nearby and was telling the kids not to play in the parking lot because of broken glass. So I'm not sure how they came to that conclusion. They must have questioned people. But this person that everybody was looking for 6 years, even longer than that, had nothing to do with this case. Also, what kind of makes me question it a little bit is that he obviously had nothing to do with the case, and if he was a local, why didn't anybody turn him in? But that's just me. On June 23rd, 2012, a little more than 17 years after Morgan disappeared, a little brief glimmer of hope emerged and then diminished just as quickly. Tanya Renee Smith, who was a 24-year-old that lived in Missouri, tried assuming Morgan's identity. She went onto a website called Vital Check and she tried to buy Morgan's documents, her social security card, her birth certificate, all of that. And because this case is obviously such a big case and is very well monitored, she immediately got caught and she was sent to Arkansas where she served some time, and she ended up having 6 months probation and had to pay a $2,500 fine. So a brief glimmer of hope that maybe Morgan was trying to buy her documents back, but it ended up not being her. Just a fraud. In 2015, Chief Russell White acknowledged that they have a lead suspect, and he said that they're looking into this person, they just don't have enough evidence to do anything with it. They can't make an arrest. So as of 2015, they did have a lead suspect. They have not named that suspect as far as I know, but they did have somebody who they were thinking of. So during all of this turmoil and awfulness, Colleen founded the Morgan Nick Foundation. And in 2019, the Morgan Nick Foundation received the Victim of Crime Assistance Grant to help families of missing adults and hire 7 more people to its staff. So Colleen has been able to do good from this. As awful as it is, she's been able to help many families find their missing children. There have been thousands and thousands of leads, no solid clues, and they have not been able to find anything about where Morgan is. They have no idea what happened to her. FBI and local communities have offered a $60,000 reward for the recovery of Morgan Nick and the identification, arrest, and conviction of subject or subjects responsible for her abduction. Arkansas Child Abduction Emergency Alert System actually renamed their system to the Morgan Nick Alert System. And their law enforcement agencies are able to activate the system through Arkansas State Police to warn the public of possible child abductions. And on May 3rd, 2019, Arkansas became the first state to gain national statewide certification for its child abduction response teams. 190 agencies in Arkansas make up 12 different teams of experts to efficiently respond to potential child abductions. So, as terrible as it is that Morgan went missing, a lot of good has come from this. So many kids have been saved because of the tragedy of Morgan's disappearance. So Colleen says that it gets harder every year. She said that she has healed from the initial panic of it, but it just gets harder. She said there's nothing easy about having your child missing. And she said that her family is still stuck in that moment. Every time that they sit down to have dinner, there's an empty space where Morgan should be. The Alma Police Department has not given up either. They have a room packed full of thousands and thousands of files relating just to Morgan's case. They say that it is still a very active case. So before we wrap this up, I wanted to get into a couple different theories that I ran into online. When I'm researching these cases, I like to go onto Reddit and Facebook groups and things like that just to see what other people have to say, because you guys have the best theories in my opinion. So I wanted to get into 2 that really struck me as really well thought out. The first one is by a Reddit user named Ropes, and I will leave all of these write-ups down below so that you can go to the original write-up and give them credit, because they put a lot of work into these and they're amazing. I mean, honestly. But this first theory that we're looking into is by Reddit user Ropes, and she was looking into a man named Edward Renegar. She said that Edward Renegar was found through DNA matching to be responsible for an unsolved murder from 1990 in Greenbrier, Arkansas. She said that Pam Falcons was taken from her work at a video store and she was found raped and murdered. So according to Ropes, Renegar lived in Oklahoma, only about 25 minutes away from Alma and the town that Morgan went missing from. She said that he drove a red Mazda truck that could be easily confused with a Ford. I guess back then they looked very similar. And his Mazda truck, like I said, was red and it had a white camper shell. It looked very, very similar to the description of the truck related to Morgan's case. She said that he had been in prison and he was released in May of 1995. And so she's really questioning whether or not maybe this person was involved. I believe that he is now deceased. So I don't know if authorities could do anything more with that. But it was a very good theory, and like I said, I'll leave the link below so you can go check out her work. The second Reddit theory that I found was by a user named BigVic155, and she saw a comment on a Morgan Nick post on Reddit, and a woman claimed to be the daughter of somebody that she thought could highly possibly be Morgan's abductor. She said that everything about her father and the abductor matched perfectly, and she ended up saying that she would leave an update after she contacted the authorities. Now, I actually came across this same post. When I came across it, some of it was deleted because it was posted a few years ago, I think, but I did come across it, so I know what she's talking about. So some people on this post were wondering if maybe this person was lying just to kind of get some attention. But Big Vic did her research and she looked into this person and she saw that this person had been making posts for about 6 months before this post. And she said that this person had mentioned in previous posts that her father was a child molester and a possible murderer. And she also found out, I don't know how, maybe the person posted about it, that this person lived in Ozark, Arkansas, which is where Morgan is from. And so it almost makes me wonder if this person is related to this case. Maybe he had his eye on Morgan for a while. I don't know any names, obviously, but it was something that caught my eye. I'll leave her post down below. She did her research, she did it good. So Colleen says that her fight to find Morgan is even stronger than ever. She said that this is not an unsolvable case and that somebody out there knows something. And she wants that person to find the courage to make that phone call to bring Morgan home. She said she's not a number. She is not a statistic. She is not a case file. She is a daughter, a sister, a granddaughter, a friend, and she is someone worth fighting for. So if you have any information on the disappearance of Morgan Nick, please call the Alma Police Department. I will leave all of the contact information down below and any information that you have. It could be helpful. It could be the thing that brings Morgan home. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something. And if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.